Welcome back to another episode of Tough Men of Faith. Nick Robertson here with RT Stringer.
Hey, Nick.
How you doing?
Well, I'm crammed in this room with four guys.
Dude, 4 guys in a 96 square foot room.
Is that why you're counting the ceiling tiles?
Yeah, well, that's the only way I can get like a decent measurement. I know they're all 2 feet by 2 feet, so.
So this room is 96 square feet?
Roughly. Probably just shy of it.
Okay.
But I was thinking about it, like they say snipers in the military. They tell snipers to use distances that they know. So most of them, use a football field or, whatever. And that's how they figure out yardage and stuff like that. So when I walk into a room, I always count the ceiling tiles because I always know that they're either 2 by 2 or 2 by 4. And I can do some quick multiplication. Yeah. I can knock it out pretty quick.
Yeah, when I walk into a room, I just picture how many of my Bibles would be laid out there, since that's the tools of my trade.
Oh, man, I see what you did there. How many crucifixes you have. Yeah.
Well, it's off
I
to
know
a good
my
start.
crucifix is 13 inches. And
So we have a guest with us who's regretting his decision, I'm sure, today already.
Yeah, I'm sure he will. This may cost him his job.
Yeah.
Depending on which...
One can hope, right?
Yeah, depending on what path this goes down today.
We'll see.
So we are joined... Did you want to introduce me? You want me to?
No, go ahead.
Okay, we are joined by Mr. Tom Qualls.
Hey, that's me. Hi, guys. How's it going? Glad to be in the hot box with you guys.
Yeah, it is warm in here.
It is, yeah.
Unseasonably warm outside. I didn't even wear a jacket. You guys are wearing long sleeves and jackets?
It's weird. Generally, RT hasn't turned the heat up in this room all week.
Yeah.
And then he comes in like an hour before and cranks the heat.
Oh, my goodness.
So it gets it up to a balmy 62, so I always bring in long sleeves. I can always shed layers.
Yeah.
Hard to add them when you don't have them.
Right. That makes sense.
You guys want to know the good news?
What's the good
news? Is that we're for season 3, whenever that launches soon.
Yeah.
We're going to have a new podcast studio.
Ooh.
I can't wait.
Being built right now.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
A little bit more
Podcast
space.
must be doing some things.
Doing some things, yeah. Well, and then after having Mr. Tom Qualls on here today.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it's a game changer. I
Can't go anywhere but up.
It's hard to hold me in this room, and not due to my size and weight, but
Because of the square footage?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Tom, do you want to introduce yourself, or we can try to introduce you?
I mean, I'm Tom Qualls.
Yeah.
Yeah, Tom, the one and only. You don't know me? I'm just kidding. It's a joke. It's a joke. No, Tom Qualls actually used to work with RT on staff.
Nice.
Yeah, had a lot of good times. We always talked about whether it was going to be the good old days, and now we look back and
That was the good old
it
days?
was the good old days,
Yeah. Well, that came out of, I don't know. So I watched The Office. Do you ever watch Office,
Oh, yeah.
Nick?
I love The Office.
Okay. I love The Office.
Yeah.
So I used to watch it live.
Yeah.
And I worked in a cubicle at the time. And so for me, it was like real life. Every Thursday night, I couldn't wait to see that half-hour episode.
Yeah.
So
Well, you guys used to do a thing, too. You guys did videos once a week or something?
yeah, you have to define like when you used to do a thing.
Sorry.
Yeah,
You guys used to do like a video.
Remember that
like,
thing?
Yeah.
like 20 to 30 minutes every, maybe it wasn't that long. Maybe it was just short, but it was fun to watch.
Every week at
Yeah.
Wednesday at like 3:30.
Yep,
or
Wednesday
something like
at
that.
3:30.
Every
Villa Live, man, Facebook Live.
And then you guys would do some random stuff too, like, with bad weather and stuff like that. And you guys just get on there and clown around.
Yep.
I mean,
I once had a baby delivered to the office. Remember that? So
what?
Remember that?
Delivered
that
a baby
one,
in the office?
the one episode where like we were doing some stuff, and then like my sister just had our nephew, or my nephew, not her nephew, but like had her son, and it was just one of these things where we were ending, and she like slid him under the camera, and I just picked him up.
Which nephew was it? The older one or the younger one?
The older one.
See, I saw him yesterday. He
he's
came
a
running
funny
up to
dude.
me. Yeah.
Oh man, that guy's funny.
He's like, here, you want to check out my game?
But you talk about tough men of faith or tough men of faith in the future. He has one of my favorite lines ever. His dad was disciplining him one day because, he's not perfect, right? So he was doing something. He's like, now, listen, you have a choice. You can go back and you can play nice, or you can go sit in the corner. That's your choice. He goes, I choose rock and roll, and just ran off. And I just thought it was great. I was like, man, this kid's the best.
Yeah.
You know that kid's a listener of this podcast.
Oh, is he really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ooh,
Definitely.
should I name drop him?
I don't
know if I should.
But he's definitely a listener. Yeah, I've even seen him with. So we have some hats now running.
Yeah,
Tough Men of Faith.
I didn't wear mine. I felt bad. I got one.
Yeah, that's okay. Nick's has a hat on. Doesn't he have that hat on today? So.
I gave them all away.
Yeah, it's true. I gave mine away.
Yeah.
I've had 2 of them for myself, and I've given them both away.
Yep.
All right, so anyways, we're introducing you. Tom and I met, I don't know, 6 years ago now.
Yeah. It was about 6 years ago.
Worked together for a short time.
Been a good time, but things change.
They do. Well, that's where we're going. On The Office. One of our favorite quotes is Andy on The Office.
I think it's Andy.
It's Andy on The Office. And he said something like, he wishes there was a way to know the good old days when you're actually in them.
Yeah.
That's not the exact quote, but something like that. So Tom and I would always joke, like, because we had some rough times that we went through.
Oh, yeah.
And so we'd say, hey, is this really the good old days? And we just don't know it.
Yeah.
And so now, 6 years later, we look back like,
It was.
there were some good old days.
Right,
So,
you know.
It's kind of like that
chasing people
saying, you and your friends played together for the last time, or you and your friends hung out together for the last time at some point, and you never knew, like, that was the last time.
that's
I know.
depressing.
That is
Every
deep.
time
A
I
little
see
bit
it,
depressing,
it
but,
is.
Listen, I'm a crier. You can't do that stuff, man. That's,
Hey,
If you start crying in here, I'm out.
Oh,
no,
okay.
seriously. This is what
Listen,
I can't
tough
remember who I
men
text.
cry, okay?
I text this to you or to producer Blake, and I think you may have been on the text, Nick.
Yeah.
Tom, I'm going to apologize now
It's
for what I
okay.
said.
It's fine.
I said
assume.
if we bring Tom Qualls on the podcast, there's two things I know for sure.
Oh, my
That's
gosh.
going to be the first time in the history of Tough Men of Faith. One, the episode's going to go really long.
Yeah.
First
Because
of all, come
Tom
on.
can just talk and talk.
Yeah,
and
he's a
talk.
talker.
Well, thank you.
The second,
Interesting talker.
no, it's not bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. And then the second thing that I said we can be assured of, for the first time in the history of Tough Men of Faith, there will be someone crying in this podcast.
Come on.
It's because we're having a good old day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's going to take you guys back to the good old days.
I'm just sentimental, man.
Yeah.
I just
Yeah.
feel my feelings. That's
So,
all.
What do you do for a living, Tom?
Well, right now I'm a teacher.
What do you teach?
I'm teaching mathematics,
Really?
right, to junior high and high schoolers. So, yeah, I'd pull my hair out if I wasn't already bald.
Yeah.
So, but no, it's great. It's fun. I love being able to work with the kids and help them.
Okay.
Build up those skills. And
I didn't think of you as a math teacher.
a lot of people wouldn't. I'm actually good at math. I'm bad at finances, good at math.
Okay.
Right. So
Yeah.
I can keep a checkbook. I can all the balances, the pluses, the minuses. I'm good at that.
Right, nobody wants to.
Yeah, but I'm always asking myself, like, why is there so many minuses? Why is there so like, I don't know what to do with that. But yeah, mathematically, yeah, it's fun stuff. I wouldn't have found myself as a math teacher either. But
Yeah.
the Lord leads in some very mysterious ways
does.
sometimes.
I always think of you as like an interesting talker and speaker. So I'm thinking more like a history teacher or, something a little more fun to talk about than math.
Than math.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I make math fun. It's
No,
gotta
you
be
don't.
fun.
There's
I
no
don't.
way.
I try though.
No way.
I had one student look at me once and go, "You're trying to make this fun? It's not gonna happen."
Yeah.
That's what he told me. So I was like, "Oh, okay."
I'm sure there's some crazy people out there that think math's fun, but
I do like it. I
Oh,
think it's like
well,
a puzzle,
you're one of
right?
them.
It's fun.
no, there's nothing.
You
fun
know,
about
there's
it.
some tough men of faith out there listening. They're like, math ain't bad.
I
Math
know.
ain't bad.
I don't mind offending the tough men of faith by what I say, so that's the nice thing about this podcast. I don't care.
Yeah, well, all right then. All right.
So what do you do? You also are a coach because you just shared with
I
us that you
do.
just
Yeah, I coach an esports team.
What's an esports team?
Esports team. So like competitive gaming, like competitive video
Oh, really?
games. Yeah.
Okay.
So got that.
I didn't
kinda
know that was a
started.
thing.
Oh yeah, man, it's booming right now.
That's
$1 billion industry. Colleges
college
are
scholarships,
Oh
right?
yeah, they're
Yeah.
throwing money. In fact, my team's got a meeting with the Franklin College esports team next Friday,
Nice.
which would be a great time. They're going to get to meet the team, have dinner with the team, and be there live for one of their competitions. And I mean, colleges are throwing money at it right now. So like at the high school level, it's great.
So
Yeah.
I don't play video games, so I'm
Right.
not real familiar. So I got a couple questions.
Okay, go on. I'm ready.
One, so I go to a basketball game and people are there cheering them on.
Yeah.
So when you have these esports teams, like what do you call it? Competition?
Sure.
Match?
Matches. Yeah,
Game?
you got matches. Mm-hmm.
You're playing against another team.
School. Mm-hmm.
And are you guys sitting there in the same room and there's people in the crowds like cheering and booing?
Not yet.
Okay.
Not yet.
Okay.
So where we are currently is, we kind of do all compete in one room. It's online.
Yeah.
We play against kids all across our schools all across the Eastern Seaboard there.
Yeah.
We made top 64 Eastern Conference last season, so we're really proud of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just us in a room right now playing online.
Yeah.
But a lot of schools have a streaming setup where like you can broadcast your games, to it.
Nice.
We just don't have the equipment or the personnel yet to facilitate that. But eventually, yeah, we'll have it to where you can just log on and watch our matches while they're happening.
Interesting.
It'd be
Pretty
pretty
cool.
fun.
Something different.
Oh yeah, it is different. It's definitely different.
Nick you were a wrestler in high school, right?
I was, yeah.
He still puts on what do you call that thing?
Singlet.
Singlet. He still
Oh,
wears
yeah.
a singlet around.
Why though? Like why?
Wife loves it.
Okay, there it is. All right, makes sense.
It's yeah.
Okay, that's
Let's
great.
move on. Let's jump to the topic.
Yeah,
then, right?
please.
Okay.
Go
so,
on.
Tom, we asked to have you on. I sent you some list of topics we have coming up. So we have a list about 20 or so, I think.
Yeah, it was a lot. I had to
One of them
pick
stood
through a
out to you, and you said, "Hey, let's talk about that."
Yeah.
It's adapt and overcome.
lot. Adapt and overcome.
What
yeah.
stood out to you about that?
To me, well, honestly, it's one of those weird things where adapting and overcoming has kind of been a theme in my life, I feel like, since I was little, I feel like it's always been like, well, didn't go how I thought it was going to go. What are you going to do about it? You know, are you going to whine about it and do whatever else? Or are you going to roll with it? Or are you going to change with it? And I just feel like there's been multiple times in my life where that's happened, multiple times in my adult life. Heck, I would say multiple times in the last 3 years that I've had to adapt and change. Even landing as a esports coach and mathematics teacher after being on staff at a church, like it's a bit of a change. It's a different course, and we'll get into that in a little bit, I'm sure. But yeah, it really stood out to me because I just have a heart for that, because I think I see so many guys that are stuck because they will not adapt and they will not change and they will not admit, the truth of their situation. And I just was hoping we could talk to those guys a little bit today from our point of view on, hey, man, you got to adapt. You got to roll with the changes.
Yep.
Some of these things in life. And it's a biblical quality. I mean, we'll get into it. But I think I got a little excited. I don't want to,
where do you see it in Scripture? Like, do you have, like, someone in mind when you think of Scripture?
Just start at the beginning. You thought Adam and Eve thought it was going to stay that way in the garden?
Yeah.
Nope.
That's true.
That changed. That changed. And you could just keep going.
We asked a woman where she wanted to eat.
Exactly, right? That did not go as planned, right? So all these things, all of it, like, go all the way through Scripture. I mean, Job's a big one, obviously. Job had it good, like the best.
Yeah.
And, like, gone. Changed. What are you going to do about it? You're sick now. You feel like you're going to die. All your friends are telling you to curse God and die. Like, what are you going to do about it? Again and again and again. These things change. But I'm sure we'll get to it in a little bit. We serve a God who doesn't change. Yeah. And that's a good thing. It could be a rock in those situations. So
one reason I was excited you picked this topic is because you've done well at this. And so our guys that don't know you, right, so they don't know your story, but man, I can say that you're one who you've adapted and overcome, like a lot of different areas.
Yeah.
I liked how you said, you mentioned that you need to just kind of, how'd you say, like, know the truth of the situation.
Yeah, admit the truth of the situation.
Like, so your reality, like, this is reality now. So if you always thought your life was going to be this way, that you'd be married and have kids and have this perfect job, and then you'd have grandkids and you retire and you had this perfect life laid out like a lot of guys do.
Yep.
Life doesn't work like that.
It does not. Not always.
No.
Again, some of us are blessed to have it work the way we thought it was going to.
Sure.
But I think there's a lot of us that it don't work that way. It doesn't work that way. I mean, one of the big things I've had to adapt to is cereal mascots. Because,
what?
You know what I'm talking about?
I have no clue what you're talking about.
Times
I was
change,
waiting
right?
for something deep, and then
right. Cereal mascots, like
right.
Like Toucan Sam, like all those guys. Listen, there used to be a whole group of like characters on cereal boxes, right?
Oh, you're talking about like actual like cereal you eat.
Breakfast
I was thinking like
cereal.
a serial killer.
What? No.
It's like what's going on?
Cereal.
No, I'm talking about like how Cinnamon Toast Crunch used to have like 3 chef guys and they're just gone. Like all this stuff, it just changes. It makes me sad.
They're no longer on the box?
No.
What
They
about
barely
the-
put anything on the back of the box anymore.
What about the EL Fudge elves? Are they still around?
That they are in name and in logo, but like I can't tell you the last time I've seen an EL Fudge commercial. You know what I'm saying? Like the magic is gone, and that's just one thing I've been having a hard time adapting to lately. I just got to be honest with you.
Man.
Anyway, that's another podcast. I think I brought that up. That's a little deep.
Yeah.
For another time.
Nick's over here making eye contact with me. Wonder if we should regret our decision of bringing you
We're gonna
on.
cut that out. Is that what we're gonna
this
do?
podcast will ever air.
But
Okay, so
anyway,
so you've overcome that. You're still eating the Cinnamon
still
Toast
eating
Crunch.
Cinnamon Toast Crunch, even
Okay.
though Ernie's gone. It's fine. He does have a name. Yeah.
Is Tony? So Tony the Tiger, is he still around?
He's on the box.
Okay,
He's on the box.
Okay.
Yeah.
We usually just talk
He is,
about Little Debbie's, which Nick calls Big
Big
Deborah.
Deborah's. Yep, I know that's one of my favorite running jokes of the podcast.
Yeah.
I'm so excited about Big Deborah every time it gets brought up.
Yeah.
Sorry, we don't have any in here today.
Yeah.
Yeah, I giggle every time.
So so you have to adapt and overcome on that. Good job.
Obviously, that's a joke,
But so I would think the last 2 years, which I know you said you've had a lot going on, but everyone's had a lot going on.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. If you haven't had something change because of COVID or something like, then I don't know where you're living. Like, I don't know where you're at or what you got going on that it hasn't changed some aspect of your life. But, I do. I got a burden for it because I just feel like there's maybe some guys out there listening now that you got some real big changes happening in your life and like you're resisting it, right? Like, and I think that's a big problem because I've seen it before where guys, they get in this position, something big happens, lose a job. You know, that's a big one, right? Like, thought everything was going great with my job, but then now I'm fired. I thought I was good at my job. Maybe it's cutbacks, whatever it is. Like, so you're wrestling with all these things, and guys like resist it, and they want to act like it didn't happen, or they want to act like it's somebody else's fault. There's a lot of anger that gets boiled out of that. There's a lot of taking it out on your family because of that. Like, listen, I'm just having a hard time right now, or whatever it is, and all of that, like, I think comes from a point of pride. You know, one of the things I think that makes us resistant to adapting and changing when all these bad things happen to us in our life, I think sometimes it's pride. We just don't want to admit that it happened to us, not me. Surely this bad thing can happen to me. I'm a good guy. I'm a tough man of faith. You know what I'm saying? I listen to the podcast every week. Like, this stuff can't happen to me. Like,
well, it seems like any kind of good plan out there, though, has room for adaptability. Sorry, it's the big words that get me every time, but
tricky. Yeah.
You know, if you don't have room for that in your plan, is your plan even good?
Right.
I mean, are you even really? Have you put much thought into it? Because the world, I mean, it's an unscripted world. Everything changes day to day.
Yeah.
And,
that's a big military term, like adapt and overcome. The Marines use it a lot. But the thought process is always like, before you go into battle, you have a plan. Like, the military spends millions of dollars, right, making a plan before they go into a battle. But as soon as you hit the battle, your plan's out the door, right? Because it's unpredictable, right? They're firing from a different side. They have IEDs set up that you didn't know about. So all of a sudden, your plan's gone.
But it gave you a good baseline of, to adapt off of.
Exactly. Make adjustments. And
Sure enough. And I think sometimes and I'll throw myself in there, I don't think we give ourselves that wiggle room that if something goes wrong, what do I do? What do I do? And the big thing is, too, steering it back spiritually, is I don't think sometimes we really consider what God's will is in some of these things. We're really concerned about our will in this situation. Like, I wanted this to happen. I thought this would happen. It's a lot like the...
I thought this was God's will.
Yeah, right. That's what I thought. I thought I was pretty clear on, like, he wanted me to do this, but here we are, I'm in the middle of a divorce, or I'm losing my job, or my kids are not the way I thought they were going to turn out to be, all these things. And it reminds me a lot of the parable of the guy he goes and he makes all the good crops, and he's making a ton of money, and he goes and he builds the silo, and he's like, this is what I'm going to do. Like, this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. And then God says, you fool, your life is going to be required of you this night. Like, the whole idea being, like, you never took under consideration, what does God want? Like, where is your God in all of this, right? Because that goes back to kind of that pride point I was talking about. Like, I think pride really puts those blinders on during a time of change. Yeah. And, like, you're just worried about, like, what I want, and not really worried about what God wants, or what your family needs, or what your friends need.
Well, this was my plan.
Right.
And I didn't make room to adapt.
Yep.
Or to even pivot. I like the word pivot.
Pivot.
I had a guy that I worked for the other day call me and say, well, we had a big issue with some labor and things like that. And he said, compass has 360 degrees in it. 180 of them are moving forward, and 180 are moving in reverse. And he said, you just have to pivot to a new degree of forward.
Yeah.
And he said, it just is what it is.
Yeah.
And
that's a good point.
I really liked that, that analogy he left there, because I was ready to go in reverse, and he's like, nah, let's just, go a few degrees a different direction. Still kind of the same direction, but, let's just adjust the path a little bit.
Yeah, that's good. I like that, to pivot, because sometimes that's what you need.
Yeah,
just
exactly.
let it, like, well, this is what it is.
Yeah.
Going back to accepting the way things are and saying, well, if this is what it is, then this is what we need to do.
Yeah.
And again, to a larger point too, not just for our own benefit, right? Like, a lot of times we talk about adapting, overcoming. It's like, just to make your life better. Like, well, sure, I guess, like, to an extent, but, like, sometimes you got to adapt and overcome to make somebody else's life better.
Yeah.
We got guys listening, like, you need to pivot right now because your wife needs you to. You know what I'm saying? You need to redirect from the way you're talking, from the way you're behaving, all this stuff, for your wife's sake, for your kids' sake, for your church's sake. Some people always sit on the sidelines and stand on the fence because they're afraid of change.
Yeah.
Their church needs them to step up. Like, I could greet. They need greeters. I could do that.
Or maybe there's a church out there that needs you and that you're not currently going to.
Yeah, there you go. Exactly. Because, like, well, the roof's going to fall in. That's the classic, right? The roof's going to fall in. Exactly.
The place is going to catch on fire when I walk through the door.
You guys brought it up on the podcast a couple times, I think. And you got guys that think that. If you're a guy out there thinking that, stop it, right?
Right.
You need to change that way of thinking because...
Or change what you're doing to where the place doesn't burn down when you come in the
door. Because the big thing is maybe the change isn't about you.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Maybe the change isn't about you. Maybe the change is for somebody else. Maybe for the change is simply for the glory of God.
Yep.
Well,
like you were just saying a few minutes ago, maybe it's for your wife, maybe it's for your kids and your family. And You know, you might not realize it today, but, you know, a small change in your life today could be a huge change for their life later
100%.
on.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Well, as men, it's what we're called to do, right? Is to serve others, servant leadership.
Yeah.
As Jesus served
Right,
and led.
right.
Yeah.
So, and some of it's like,
Jesus didn't hang out with perfect people.
He
No.
did not.
Funny thing, he hung out with a bunch of sinners.
Yep. Who needed to change.
That's our tease joke for me all the time. He says, well,
It
see, I
is.
hang out with Nick.
Yeah.
when guys don't want to hang out with me because I'm a pastor, it's like, hey, let me introduce you to my friend Nick.
He's cool. Yeah.
Listen, I do it out of love because it instantly gives me credibility.
Yeah.
So it's-
This guy's your friend?
yeah, I even hang out with this guy.
It's kind of funny. I did that the other day. A friend of mine was asked who I was hanging out with, and I told him my pastor, and I said, oh, but he's cool.
But he's cool. But he's cool.
He's like,
You
he
have
said,
to qualify it
okay.
sometimes. Yeah.
I get it all the time.
Yeah.
People ask, so it's, as a pastor, it's the one, I enjoy the question, but I always know it's coming. Like you're sitting at a bar or any place, like,
Right.
so what do you do? And as
it
soon
goes.
as I give my answer, I'm a pastor.
Yeah.
It immediately sparks something
yeah.
in someone's
That's
head.
happened a
and
few
they
times.
react.
We've been out to dinner.
Yeah.
I think we went to a hibachi place once. And,
We did.
There's a guy next to us just getting plastered, just having a blast, like absolute
It
blast.
was. His wife couldn't even sit in her seat.
He looked
Oh
at,
my gosh.
yeah,
Yeah,
she's
it was
falling out of
bad.
her seat, and he
I was
like
sitting next to her.
he like nudges RT a couple times, like, so what are you doing? He's like, oh, I'm in the National Guard. And he's like, oh, that's really cool. Do you have like a job? And he's like, yeah, I'm a pastor. And he's like, he just froze.
Yeah.
Yep.
Didn't they end up leaving? Or
Yeah, I
something?
think so,
They did.
yeah.
Yeah.
Couldn't handle the spirit in the
Yeah.
room.
I
You
I
know.
think they finished their 19 sake bombs and walked out the door.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I forgot about that.
Sayonara.
All right, I don't want to interrupt you guys, but this is usually about when we stop
Yeah.
recording because our guys have short attention spans.
Yep.
Yeah,
I
we
know
read
that
at a
feeling.
6th grade level.
So
We listen at a sixth
here's
grade
what-
level.
Yeah, I've been there.
here's what we're going to do. I need you guys to quit talking,
Okay.
and then we're going to wrap this episode up.
Cool.
And then we're going to come back next week, and Tom's going to talk about some practical things he's learned and continue on to this topic. Because I think there's a lot more here we want to dig into.
Yeah,
We want guys to hear. Is everybody good with that?
I think so.
All right, so thanks for joining us today for Tough Men of Faith. Next week, Mr. Tom Qualls is back, live in studio with us again.
Part 2. All right.
See you guys.